Alien woman caught me staring at her ass. Do you want to die, human man? Riven had only meant to cross the docking bay, drop off his diagnostic tablet, and maybe, grab a synth coffee before the shift alarms started screaming again. That was the entire plan. A simple, peaceful stroll under the hum of thruster coils and the glow of containment fields. Nothing explosive, nothing dramatic, nothing involving death by alien warrior. But peace was apparently allergic to him. It took exactly 3 steps for that entire plan to immolate itself when Lysara strode by with her usual storm-like presence. Long ears angled back in concentration, armored boots striking the deck like advancing artillery. He told himself he wouldn't look. He absolutely told himself that. Yet some cosmic force, some malevolent gravitational pull stronger than any singularity, dragged his eyes downward at the worst possible angle. And she noticed. She stopped so abruptly the air around her seemed to halt, as if even the engines held their breath. Her head turned, slow and precise, like a targeting array locking onto a doomed vessel. Riven felt the weight of her stare hit his spine and ricochet down his legs, which suddenly remembered how to be useless. Every technician, loader, and drone in the bay either froze or found a very interesting piece of wall to study. She approached him with a silence more terrifying than any shouted fury. Up close, her presence carried that unmistakable mix of danger and elegance that her species was known for, though Riven doubted the recruitment brochures ever mentioned the part where they could kill a man with a glare. Her long ears twitched once sharply, like punctuation to an unspoken threat. "Human," she said, voice low enough to make his badge vibrate. "Did you just look where I think you looked?" Riven swallowed. It sounded like a faulty coolant pump. "Define look." Her brows lowered. The temperature seemed to plummet. "Define. You dare request a definition." He coughed, hoping to dislodge both his fear and whatever scraps of dignity still clung to him. "Well, scientifically speaking." "Scientifically speaking," she repeated, stepping closer. "You are moments away from being reduced to a smear on the deck plating." He tried to calculate whether humor would save him or get him vaporized faster. His survival instincts, unreliable as they were, voted for humor. "In my defense, warrior Lysara, I was conducting a structural stability assessment." Several dock workers subtly covered their mouths. One loader drone emitted what suspiciously resembled a giggle beat before its supervisor slapped it silent. Lysara blinked, ears flicking. "Eh, what?" "You know," he continued, "because panic made him stupid and momentum made him unstoppable. Just a routine, engineering evaluation. For safety. Purely safety. Lots of curves affect aerodynamics." The silence that followed could have cracked hull glass. She stared at him as if trying to decide whether humans reproduced via spontaneous combustion. Then, against all logic, her ear tips twitched upward in a tiny, involuntary movement. One he had learned during joint mission briefings meant confusion rather than immediate murder. "You are either very brave," she said slowly, "or very foolish." "Oh, foolish," he said, deeply, chronically, practically professionally. Her expression trembled dangerously close to something that might have been amusement, though she snuffed it out so quickly he almost doubted he'd seen it. She stepped back, though only by a fraction. "Explain yourself properly, human, and if you lie, I'll know." Riven's throat tightened, but this time, instead of scrambling for excuses or collapsing into a puddle, he told her the simple truth. "I wasn't trying to disrespect you. I just noticed you. You walk like you're about to conquer a star system. Hard not to look." Her ears froze mid-sway. The tiniest flick of surprise crossed her face before strict warrior composure slammed back into place. "Your honesty is disarming," she muttered, sounding offended by the inconvenience. "It complicates protocol." "Sorry. Don't apologize," she snapped. Then quieter. "It's irritating." Before Riven could ask how honesty irritated someone, a warning klaxon blared across the bay. A crate lifter overloaded its grav coils and shot upward, spinning like a drunken meteor. Workers scattered. Riven lunged for the manual override. Lysara leapt after him, landing beside him with the poise of a seasoned combatant even as the rogue machinery whirled overhead. Together, they slammed their palms onto the control slab. The lift shuddered, sparked, and crashed to the floor with a clang that rattled ribs. Riven winced. That could have flattened us. Lysara brushed dust off her gauntlet. If it had landed on you, human, I would have assumed the universe finally corrected an error. He grinned. But you helped me anyway. I simply prefer my enemies alive long enough to properly eliminate them. But her ears gave another tiny upward twitch, betraying her. The Bay crew resumed movement, murmuring, staring. Riven felt the tension shift, lighter now, threaded with an odd current neither of them could name. Lysara looked at him once more, eyes sharp but no longer hostile. This conversation is unfinished, she said. Do not hide from me. I couldn't even if I tried. Her lips lifted, not quite a smile, but the closest thing he'd ever seen on her. Then she turned, boots ringing across the deck as she strode away, long ears tracing her lingering irritation or interest. Riven exhaled shakily, wondering how one accidental glance had just rewritten the orbit of his entire life. Riven swore the universe had a sense of humor, and a very specific one at that, because the day after nearly getting vaporized by Lysara's glare, he discovered that command had reassigned him to joint duty with Lysara. Not near her, not in the same department, directly with her, side by side, breathing the same recycled air, sharing the same mission logs, diagnostic feeds, and probably, if he was unlucky, her ongoing desire to put him into a plasma furnace. He stared at the orders on his tablet. This is how I die, he muttered. His co-worker Jax peered over his shoulder. Congratulations. You've been promoted to Alien Warrior's favorite target. I hear it comes with benefits, like a free burial. Very supportive, Riven said. Thank you. When he arrived at the auxiliary control hub, Lysara was already there, arms crossed, long ears angled in a way that suggested she'd been practicing new forms of disapproval. She didn't look at him when he entered, but her ears flicked sharply, a clear sign she detected his presence the same way one detects a malfunctioning reactor core. Human, she said without turning. Explain why your name is now attached to my mission roster. Because someone in admin hates us both. She turned then, slowly, eyes narrowing. You dare suggest the High Coordination Council acts out of pettiness? Absolutely. They lose paperwork constantly. One time they sent me to fix a coffee machine on Deck C, and forgot to tell me it was also inhabited by a territorial maintenance robot. I still have the scars. Her expression shifted, ever so slightly, from annoyance to something resembling reluctant curiosity. Your people have an alarming tolerance for chaos. We call it adaptability, he said. You should see our political system. It's basically organized panic. She blinked. You say this as if it is humorous. Oh, it's hilarious. In a slow-motion disaster way. Before she could formulate a reply, the hollow board flickered above them, displaying a schematic of the ship's outer hull. A maintenance pod had malfunctioned during an external inspection cycle, leaving it lodged between two thermal radiator fins. The ship needed those fins to avoid becoming a very large, very bright fireball. Lysara stepped toward the hollow, her tone shifting to crisp command. We retrieved the pod manually. A simple task. Riven stared at the highlighted section. Simple. That's a decompression hazard wrapped in a death trap, holding hands with a mechanical nightmare. She tapped the console. It is good that I am here then. You clearly require supervision. I don't require supervision, he protested. I require oxygen. Big difference. Her ears twitched. Prepare your suit. Minutes later, they descended through the airlock together. Lysara stood perfectly still while her armor sealed itself with a soft magnetic hum. Riven, meanwhile, did his best to put his suit on without tripping over his own limbs. Lysara watched the entire process with the expression of someone observing a species that somehow survived despite itself. Do all humans put on their protective gear like hatchlings? She asked. Only the talented ones, he said. You should see the untalented ones. They get stuck in the legs. The outer hatch slid open, revealing the star-speckled void. The radiators glowed faintly, venting heat into darkness. The stuck maintenance pod blinked pathetically like a stranded animal wedged in machinery far beyond its patience. Lysara activated her thrusters, with an elegant backward step, gliding into open space. Riven followed with considerably less elegance, spinning once, twice, then stabilizing only because Lysara grabbed his shoulder. "Do not drift off," she said. "Retrieving you would be inconvenient." "Nice to know you'd consider retrieving me at all." "I would retrieve any crew member," she replied. "Even you." He smiled inside his helmet. "Touching." They approached the wedged pod. Lysara examined it, tracing the stress fractures glowing along its surface. "If we dislodge it improperly, it will bounce off the radiator and into the coolant feeds, which would cause a catastrophic leak and potentially shut down the entire ship." "Correct." Riven sighed. "Well, nothing says bonding like avoiding ship-wide destruction." They positioned themselves on opposite sides and activated their mag grips. On Lysara's count, they pulled. The pod screeched in protest. Riven's thruster sputtered. Lysara's armor vents released a pulse of energy. "Again," she commanded. They pulled harder. The pod lurched free, violently, with all the grace of a disgruntled meteor. It spun past them so fast Riven yelped, flailing out of its path. Lysara caught him mid-spin like he weighed nothing. "Your balance is unacceptable." "My balance is perfectly fine. I just prefer not dying." "You are dramatic." They secured the pod and returned through the airlock as the ship's systems stabilized around them. The moment the inner hatch sealed, Riven sagged against the wall in relief. "That," he said, "was the closest I've ever come to dying next to someone who looked mildly annoyed about it." She regarded him for a long moment, ears steady, posture precise. Then she said, "You performed adequately." "That's the highest praise I've ever gotten from you." It was not praise. It sounded like praise. She took a step closer, studying him with that intense, evaluating gaze that had nearly incinerated him the day before. This time, however, he didn't feel fear so much as an unexpected warmth. Like her scrutiny carried more curiosity than threat. "This does not mean I approve of you," she said softly. "I didn't ask for approval." "Good," she replied, though her ears betrayed a faint, upward twitch before she turned away. "Because this partnership is only beginning, human. Do not think for a moment I will allow you to disrupt my focus." Riven grinned. "Wouldn't dream of it, but I make no promises." Lysara paused just long enough for him to catch the flicker of amusement she tried to hide. Then she walked off, boots echoing down the corridor, leaving Riven very aware that the gravity between them was shifting, slowly, strangely, and with the inevitability of a star pulling something into its orbit. Riven was halfway through calibrating a gravroute stabilizer, an annoying task even on a good day, when the ship's lighting flickered in that ominous way that suggested something alive had just crawled into a power junction and started chewing. He sighed, set down his tools, and braced for alarms. They arrived on cue, wailing through the corridor with desperate enthusiasm. He tapped his comm. "Please tell me that was a test drill and not an actual emergency." Jax's panicked voice answered, "Emergency. Definitely emergency. Something escaped from the Zenobio cargo module." Riven winced. "Define something." "A glowing worm lizard thing with too many legs and a terrible attitude." "Fantastic. I'll add it to my list of problems, right under existential dread." Before he could gather his equipment, the door slid open and Lysara strode in with the purposeful energy of someone fully prepared to stab whatever the universe threw at her. Her long ears angled sharply forward the moment she saw him. "You, with me." "Hello to you too," he said. "You know, one day you might try greeting me like a normal." "There is no time. A containment breach has occurred." "So I heard. Jax says it glows." "It also bites," she said, "and runs, and climbs walls." "Great," Riven said. "A perfect date night." Her ears flicked. If that is humor, it is ill-timed. It's always ill-timed. That's the charm. Despite her glare, she waited long enough for him to grab his scanning tablet before marching out. The main corridor was already in disarray, crew members ducking into compartments, Drones whizzing overhead broadcasting warnings, flickering lights casting everything in an overdramatic horror movie ambience. Lysara tapped her wrist guard, projecting a hologram of the ship's interior. A pulsing red dot skittered through the ventilation grid at the speed of a caffeinated demon. "It is moving toward the fusion conduits," she said. "Of course it is," Riven groaned. "Why choose a harmless location when you can sprint directly toward catastrophic failure?" Lysara glanced at him. "You will accompany me into the vents." "Absolutely not," he said. "I get stuck in those. Last time I needed 3 drones and a tub of lubricant to get out." Her head turned slowly. "You needed lubricant." It was medical grade, and very effective. Her expression shifted in a way he couldn't decipher, somewhere between disbelief and resigned acceptance. "You will not get stuck this time." "That's what I said last time." She boosted herself upward and pried open the vent panel with her gauntlets. Riven climbed after her, muttering prayers to every known safety regulation. Inside, the metal tunnels echoed with the distant scuttling of the creature. The glow ahead pulsed like a misplaced star. They crawled in near silence. Lysara moved with precise, feline grace. Riven followed with the unsteady determination of someone who fully expected to be eaten. When the creature's chittering grew louder, she signaled him to stop. "There," she whispered. The creature perched on a junction of pipes, bioluminescent markings, shimmering along its segmented body. It was roughly the size of a small dog, if dogs had 6 legs, antennae, and a jaw structure that violated at least 3 engineering laws. It chewed on a cable with alarming enthusiasm. Riven whispered, "We need to lure it away from the power line." "Agreed," she said. "Use your scanner." "My scanner won't lure it, wait. Actually." He tapped a command, and the device emitted a synthetic chirping noise. The creature paused mid-bite. Its antennae perked. Then, to Riven's horror, delight, and bafflement, it scampered toward him at high speed. "It works," he whispered triumphantly. "It is attacking you." "Oh!" Riven scrambled backward so fast he nearly collided with Lysara. The creature launched itself at him, but Lysara intercepted it, catching it mid-air with a swift, practiced motion. It writhed in her grasp like an angry neon slinky. "Containment," she ordered. Riven fumbled with the portable field capsule, nearly snapping it shut on his own fingers before finally activating the stabilization field around the creature. It buzzed angrily, glowing even brighter. "There," he said, panting. "Crisis averted." "For the moment," Lysara said, "your recklessness remains a threat." "My recklessness saved your hands from a glowing morsel of rage." She gave a soft, irritated exhale. "A fair point. But your technique lacks discipline." "My technique kept us alive." "Barely. Barely still counts." As they crawled back through the vent, she paused unexpectedly. Her ears shifted, slowly this time, a more thoughtful angle he hadn't seen before. "You reacted faster than expected," she said. "Is that another compliment? Because that would make 2 within 48 hours. "It is an observation." "Observational compliment, then." She resumed crawling without responding, but he caught the tiny twitch at the base of her ears, the telltale sign of suppressed amusement. They exited back into the corridor just as the lights stabilized and the ship announced containment restoration. Riven sagged against the wall. "We survived. Again. I think that's becoming our thing." "I do not seek things," Lysara said, though her voice carried a subtle softness. "But your presence continues to complicate my assessments." "Happy to complicate. That is what concerns me." Yet she didn't step away. Not immediately. They stood close enough that the hum of her armor resonated through the air between them. Finally she turned, her tone returning to command. "Report the creature secured. Then meet me in the tactical bay." "More missions. More complications," she corrected. "And I require your unpredictability." "See," he said. "That was definitely a compliment." She walked off, refusing to confirm or deny it, her long ears betraying a faint upward curve as she disappeared around the corner. Riven watched her go, pulse steadying, thought spinning like a ship caught in a gravity while he no longer wished to escape. Riven arrived at the tactical bay with the same enthusiasm one reserves for dental surgery, only to find Lysara already pacing the room with sharp, deliberate strides. Her ears twitched with the rhythm of someone reviewing too many possibilities at once. She didn't look at him when he entered. She simply pointed at the tactical display, as if summoning an apprentice who kept irresponsibly aging in the wrong direction. "You are late." "I'm 3 minutes early." "You are late compared to when I expected you." "That's not how time works." She finally turned, eyes narrowed. "It is how I work." "Terrifying," he said, deeply. Her ears gave the briefest upward flick, amusement or annoyance. He could never tell, but she gestured for him to approach. The hollow table flickered to life, revealing a three-dimensional projection of the ship's aft sectors. Several compartments pulsed with caution markers. "We have multiple micro-failures in the coolant regulators," she said, "all originating from the same region." "Great," he muttered. "The ship is developing personality quirks." "This is not humorous." "It's a little humorous." She ignored that. "We will inspect the compromised wing together." He blinked. "Together? You sure? Last time we worked together, something glowed, something bit me, and something almost killed us." "Efficiency improves when you are monitored." "So I'm a malfunctioning toaster?" "Incorrect. Toasters have consistent performance." "Wow. Thank you." They exited into the aft corridor, which was already dim from the coolant system reduction. Riven activated his hand lamp. Lysara didn't need one. Her species had excellent low-light perception, something she reminded him of constantly. The deeper they went, the thicker the faint cold haze became, a result of microscopic coolant particles drifting into the air. Riven tightened his jacket. "Humans are fragile," she commented. "Humans are comfortable," he corrected. "There's a difference. Your people complain excessively, and yours don't complain enough." She paused just long enough to say, "I complain about you." "That doesn't count." "It should." The coolant regulators were housed behind a bulkhead panel that pulsed with faint blue emergency lights. Riven knelt beside it, running his scanner across the seam. The device beeped unhelpfully. "Something's wrong," he said. "The system thinks everything is stable, but the readings say otherwise. It's like the ship is lying." Lysara crouched beside him. "Why would a ship lie?" "I lied to my doctor about sleep habits. Maybe ships lie about coolant habits." Unacceptable logic. "Welcome to humanity." He pried open the panel, and both he and Lysara froze. Tiny crystalline structures coated the pipes inside, shimmering like frozen coral, except this coral pulsed faintly as if alive. Lysara leaned in, ears stiffening. "This is not coolant residue." "No," Riven said. "No, it is not. Coolant doesn't grow." The crystals suddenly vibrated, shedding tiny sparks. Riven jerked back. "Okay, that's alive. It's alive. Why is it alive?" Lysara grabbed his collar and yanked him away from the panel just as the crystalline mass expanded outward in a rapid, unsettling bloom. The growth crawled along the pipes, gently, almost curiously. "It's spreading," Riven breathed. Lysara drew her plasma blade. "We must contain it." Riven held up a hand. "Wait, we don't know if it reacts to heat. You could make it angry." "It is crystal. Crystals do not get angry." The growth trembled violently, as if offended. "See," Riven said. "Now you've upset it. It cannot hear me." It definitely heard something. The crystalline mass emitted a soft harmonic tone, a vibration that resonated through the walls. Lysara tightened her grip on her blade. "That sound is a warning," she said. "How do you know?" "It resembles my people's war horns." Riven winced. "Fantastic. The ship is growing alien war horns." The vibration intensified, pulse quickening. Riven's scanner blared, flashing a hazard signal. "It's feeding on the coolant," he said. "We need to shut off the supply before it reaches the primary conduits." Lysara grabbed his arm. "Then move." They sprinted down the corridor, boots thundering across metal as the harmonic vibrations chased them like a chorus of shimmering insects. Riven accessed the cutoff valve at the junction console, fingers flying across the interface. "Come on," he muttered. Don't freeze now. You cannot rush technology with words, Lysara said. You'd be surprised how often it works. He slammed the final override. The coolant flow halted with a deep metallic thud, and the crystal's vibration abruptly stopped. Lysara raised her blade, as if expecting the growth to leap out of a vent and bite them. Nothing happened. The silence felt suspicious. Riven exhaled shakily. Okay. Crisis paused. Not resolved, she said. Paused counts. No, it does not. As they walked back toward the affected section, Lysara slowed suddenly. Riven nearly bumped into her. Don't do that, he said. I have limited braking ability. She didn't reply. Her ears angled carefully as she studied the crystalline mass, now still and dull. She stepped closer. It responded to our presence, she murmured, specifically to movement and sound. Riven frowned. So it's not just growing. It's aware. He wished he hadn't said it out loud. Saying it made it worse. Lysara glanced at him, something softer in her expression. You handled the crisis effectively. That was a compliment. It was an acknowledgement. Which is a compliment wearing armor. She didn't deny it. Instead, she stepped closer, standing shoulder to shoulder with him as they examined the dormant crystal. The corridor lights flickered again, casting shifting glimmers across its surface. Riven whispered, "We should tell command." She nodded. "Yes, and we will observe it together until then." Together. It would be inefficient otherwise. "Incredible," he said. "You almost sounded like you wanted my company." She turned her head, meeting his eyes with an intensity that made his pulse jump. "I did not say that." "You did not say it." Her ears twitched upward, barely, but enough for him to see. Then she walked away, her voice steady but quieter than usual. "Stay close, human. This is not over." The crystals didn't stay dormant for long. Riven knew this the moment the ship's announcement system crackled alive, with an unfamiliar tone, a soft, melodic hum that clearly wasn't authorized by anyone with a pulse. He and Lysara exchanged a look that conveyed a mutual understanding. Things were about to become painfully complicated, which meant they would be dealing with this together, whether they liked it or not. They arrived at the affected corridor to find the crystalline growth shimmering again, but differently this time. The pulses were slower, almost rhythmic, as if the whole mass were taking deep breaths. Riven lifted his scanner. It buzzed, then shorted out in his hand. "Okay," he said, waving his smoking device. "I vote we stop poking it before it decides to poke back." Lysara stepped forward, unbothered by the potential of being vaporized. "It is attempting communication." Riven blinked. "How do you know?" "It repeats the same pattern. My species sends diplomatic signals in a similar manner." Diplomatic? This thing nearly ate the coolant system. Some diplomats bite. He hesitated. "Should I be concerned that you know this from experience?" Her ears twitched upward. "Absolutely." Before he could reply, the crystals brightened, projecting faint shapes into the air, fractured holograms forming alien symbols neither of them recognized. Lysara studied them with intense focus. "This is intentional. It requests stabilization." Riven squinted at the shapes. "How do you know it's requesting that and not, say, advertising a sale?" "Your jokes increase in danger." "That's how I cope." She leaned closer to the projection. "It formed because we transported residual fragments during our last cargo exchange. These fragments sought energy. They did not intend harm. So, the glowing angry warhorn ice coral is just hungry?" "Correct." He sighed. "Great. Now I feel bad for yelling at it." "You yell at many things. And I feel bad about all of them." The crystals pulsed again, brighter. Riven's shoulders tensed. "Please tell me that's a friendly pulse." "It is a request," she said. "We must provide controlled energy so it can complete its growth cycle, then detach safely." Riven groaned. "Of course. Nothing around here ever just wants a sandwich." They set up a portable energy emitter, calibrating it to the lowest non-lethal frequency. When Riven activated it, the crystalline mass responded immediately, glowing with deep blues and purples. It resonated through the deck, like a gentle hum. Lysara rested a hand on the emitter console. It is working. He nodded. If this thing sings opera after it's done, I'm quitting. The crystal began retracting from the coolant pipes, pulling itself into a single cohesive structure about the size of a large crate. When it finished, it detached with an elegant ripple, hovering a few centimeters above the deck, like a floating jewel. Riven whispered, "Okay, that's beautiful. And terrifying. Mostly terrifying." The crystalline entity emitted a final harmonic tone, gentler this time, like thanks. Then it drifted toward the nearest airlock, as if guided by purpose. Lysara activated the external release, and the crystal slipped into open space, floating away until it became one more shimmer among the stars. The corridor fell silent. The hum faded. The ship's system stabilized. Riven exhaled a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Well," he said, "that was the weirdest Tuesday I've ever had." "It is not Tuesday," Lysara said. "It felt like a Tuesday." She turned to him, studying him with that steady, evaluating gaze that had once made him fear for his life. Now it simply made him aware, painfully aware, of how close they'd become. Her ears angled upward with a softness he'd learned to read. "You have changed," she said. "Is that good?" "It is inconvenient, but not unwelcome." Riven laughed. "You say the sweetest things." She stepped closer. "When we first met, I considered you reckless, irritating, unpredictable." "All accurate," he said. "But now I consider you." Her ears twitched. "Valuable." He blinked. "That's wow. That's high praise from you." "It is not praise," she said quickly. "It is truth. You face danger without certainty. You persist despite fear. You adapt without complaint." "I complain constantly." "Yes," she said, "but you still act. And you do so with purpose." Her gaze softened further. "You have shaped our missions. And you have shaped me." Riven felt heat rush to his face. "You're going to make me emotional, warrior." "That is not my intention." "It's working anyway." She hesitated, then reached out and placed a hand lightly on his arm, the first time she had ever initiated contact without dragging, yanking, or preventing his accidental self-destruction. It was gentle, intentional, human. She murmured, "I no longer wish to threaten you." "That's good," he said. "Threats were a rough start." "I wish," she paused again, ears turning slightly pink at the tips, "to continue this bond." Riven smiled, warm and certain. "Yeah, me too." A passing drone beeped in what sounded like approval before Lysara glared it into silence. She looked back at Riven. "Walk with me." "Anywhere," he said. Side by side, they moved down the corridor. No threats, no explosions, no glowing creatures attempting to chew the ship apart. Just quiet steps under the hum of the engines, carrying them forward into something new. Riven didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The woman who once promised to kill him now walked beside him willingly, her long ears brushing lightly backward every time she glanced at him. And for the first time since their chaotic beginning, the universe finally felt less like a death trap and more like an invitation. The end.